Yaz, you can't do everything. I wanted to do jazz, hip hop, contemporary, street dance, and tap dance. But you might get overwhelmed because you want to do so many things. Basically, not knowing what the hell you want to do when you have so many options, I feel like I'm behind sometimes. Like when I thought about my life, by 26, I thought that I would be having my shit together, and it's definitely not together. And I'm like, will it ever be together, or will I just be manic and kind of not knowing and going with the flow for the rest of my life? If nobody else was watching, or I couldn't compare my life to anybody else's, would I be happy with my life how it is right now? Stop asking yourself, what am I going to do with my life, or what do I want to do with my life? Just ask yourself, make it super simple, just ask yourself, what do I want to do next?
Buckle up, bitches. It's gonna get bumpy. This is the breakup diet.
Does anybody else feel so overwhelmed when it hits September? Like, I don't know what it is about September, but I feel like it's when shit gets real again. And then when it comes to September, I feel like everybody's back. Because in summer, London just feels empty and that nobody's here. And I don't know, it feels kind of like your work pauses. And then come September, everybody's like ready to get back on it. They're back in the mood. They're go, go, go. And so I feel like I mustn't be the only one that when September hits, you get kind of overwhelmed. Not just overwhelmed because of your one job, but you might get overwhelmed because you want to do so many things. Like, I don't know if this is just something of being in your 20s, but I keep finding myself wanting to do so many different things. So, for example, right now, I want to move to New York for not forever, but for a few months. But then I also want to buy a house or an apartment and do it up and maybe sell it on, or, so I want to do that. Or I want to do my Pilates instructor course, or I want to scale the podcast, or I know I want to start a fashion brand. And I feel like I have all these ideas and I start researching one of them and then I jump to the next one. Like, it feels like at the moment for me, I feel like I get an idea, I start researching it, I see how much things cost and actually get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of how it would work. Then I maybe start doubting the idea, and then bang, all of a sudden I see something on social media, or I hear something about like an engagement announcement or a career announcement, and I'm like, shit, am I doing the right thing? And maybe I should be doing that. So I don't know if anybody else is going to relate to this, but that's what I want to talk about today. Basically, not knowing what the hell you want to do when you have so many options, and not knowing which option you should actually go with, and which is just like an idea or a trend basically in your head that you have. Like, how do we know what is going to be a good thing to do with your life? So many, that's just it. Like, I just feel like somebody else must relate to this. And sometimes I feel like when I think about being 26, I thought I would have had things more lined up. Like, I thought I would have maybe had a boyfriend right now. I thought I would have like a steady job. Like, when I thought about my life by 26, I thought that I would be having my shit together, and it's definitely not together. And I'm like, will it ever be together, or will I just be manic and kind of not knowing and going with the flow for the rest of my life? And something I always ask myself, like when I'm listening to other podcasts or when I'm listening to clips on social media, a lot of the time you hear entrepreneurs that are hugely successful and they're like, oh, I just fell into this. And I'm like, if you just fell into this, does that mean you were trying a bunch of other things, or like you weren't really meant to go down that path? So then I'm thinking in my head, maybe if I keep trying different things, I'm going to fall into something that's going to make sense. But is that dumb? I don't know. So if you have any thoughts on that, please let me know, because it's like my ADHD brain is like going everywhere and anywhere, and I don't know which path to pick. A question I've been asking myself, which I don't know if there is the right thing, is if nobody else was watching, or I couldn't compare my life to anybody else's, would I be happy with my life how it is right now? Yeah, I think I would be. So I think if you're struggling and not knowing what to do, that is something you should ask yourself and might help you. But before we get into the advice of what you should do and maybe some questions you should ask yourself if you're struggling with this, I thought it'd be good to talk about some of the reasons we don't start things and we just keep thinking about them. Like, for myself, I know that the reason I haven't started things in the past would be because I don't feel like I have enough time. I feel like I shouldn't commit to too many things at once, because then I'm like, can you do anything well if you put your energy in everything? But so with that thought of like putting your, having lots of different eggs in lots of different baskets, yes, you have a big toolkit, but then are we doing anything good and to our full potential? But then when I look at entrepreneurs again, they seem to have done so much. But do we think that they've just done so much after their main thing that made them super successful or made them a brand? Then do we think because they already have that, then they branch off and do lots of other things? So these are the type of things that I'm thinking about in my head. Like, should I just pick one thing to start with, and then after that's successful, maybe I'll pick up some other things? But then it goes back to the other point of like, what if I then change again? Because if I look at my life from when I was younger, I feel like even from 18 until 23, I feel like I have changed career paths or careers so many times. Like, since I was able to pick what I should be doing or want to do, I have changed it. So sometimes I think when you aren't forced into a direction, you sometimes can just end up going nowhere and you just don't know which way to pick, or you change things, or yeah. Because that to me, going and what I was doing is like after school, I went to uni for like 2 months, dropped out. Went to work for my family in Australia, so moved to Australia, was super lonely in Australia because I knew no one. Then I moved back to London. I thought I really like photography. I studied it at school, maybe I should do a photography course. Then I did a photography course. Then was like, this isn't really for me, because I think at the time my mum was like, you're so good at it, you should do it, la la la. And being like a 19-year-old girl or 20-year-old girl, I was like, don't tell me what to do. Like, stop telling me what to do. I'm going to decide what I want to do. And also because my mum liked what I was doing, I almost was like, oh, I don't like it now, which is so dumb. And I wish I paid more attention when I was doing it back then, or actually gave it a proper go, because being a photographer now would be so cool. And I'm like, ugh. And then after that, I went and what did I do after that? I got a job in events and was loving that. And even now thinking about it, like, yeah, I would have loved if I stayed at that job. Like, that would have been so much fun. I just changed career again. And then I was like, no, I want to do acting. So then I went and did a bunch of courses in acting. Then I went to LA and I did a course in LA for acting, which was so fun because I really wanted to go to LA. Then I was like, tried it for a bunch after, while also getting other jobs in London, like just random. I think I got a job in marketing, and then I was like doing that while still trying to do some acting self-tapes. And then I was like, no, okay, acting isn't what I want to do, because I don't know, it's just, I think I was more doing it to like build confidence and, develop as a person, but I don't actually think it's like my passion. Like, I did not like doing self-tapes. I did not actually really like, auditioning or doing that sort of stuff. Like, I found it very daunting, and I just didn't get that much joy even when I was filming for acting. Like, I would become so tired after, and I just found it quite hard and didn't really suit me. And then I started the podcast, and now I really love the podcast, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to stop this anytime soon, and I love where it's going, and I've got a lot of new listeners recently, and I'm so grateful for that. But I'm like, I often feel like I'm not doing enough. Like, I feel like I should always be doing more with it. And on the other side of it is also like all the other ideas that I said at the start of like what I also want to do, they're still there, and some of them have been around in my head for ages. So some of the reasons I think that people don't do things, I mean, there's lots, but for me, if I'm looking at some of the ideas, so let's look at the fashion brand that I've had since maybe, I think I started doing sketches and stuff for it. I mean, those sketches are very out of date, and like, they're not what I would pick now, but I think I started that when I was like 18. And even when I went to uni for fashion, I was like, I had the idea that I liked it then. But the reason I haven't started it is things like, I don't feel like I have enough time. I am like, what if I waste some money and don't think that I want to do it in 6 months' time? It's expensive. What if no one wears it? Another one is like, how do I actually know I'm doing anything right? Because I feel like when you're researching, it can be also quite overwhelming, and you just don't know where to start with an idea even, or if you're doing something correctly. What will people think? What if it goes nowhere? What if I started and I hate it? There's like so many things that have stopped me doing it that remind you that you should do it. And I just feel like there's like a graveyard of so many ideas I have in my head that like I know I would love but don't actually do. I think if you're not sure why the reason is that you haven't started something, I think, for example, let's just say that the reason I haven't started the fashion brand is for all of those things. But then a question I would ask yourself is, if you never did it, would you regret that more? So I think that's, if you don't know if you should do an idea or not, if you ask yourself that question, like, if you don't do it and you always have this idea in your head, but it never actually goes into something, and somebody else does it, or you see your best friend living out your dream, like say you want to start a fashion brand and they start a fashion brand and you're like, I've wanted to do that since I was 19. And then you see how happy they are doing that. And it could be completely different style to yours, everything different, not saying it's the same idea, but, and then you see that, would you feel worse than not doing it? Did that make sense? Like, I think if you're unsure and you've had an idea for a long period of time, you need to really sit with yourself and be like, okay, I've had this idea since I was 19. Every year it comes up again and I'm still super interested in it. Maybe I should just give it a go. That's my advice, is just give it a go. And the worst thing that can happen is like you lose some money, you lose some time. But I mean, like, it's not that bad. Maybe people will make fun of you, maybe, yeah. But at the end of the day, every experience that you have in life, I feel like you gain something from. So when I was earlier talking about me trying all those different things, I can look back now and be like, okay, although I feel like I've changed career path so many times, at least I have picked up skills along the way. So I know, for example, with the photography course that I did when I was younger, I learned a lot about cameras and lighting, which has helped me for the podcast. Or when I was doing the acting stuff, that definitely helped me with my confidence and made me develop as a person and not be so shy. Because in my teenage years, I was so shy, and that really helped me. So then in turn, I'm not so shy on camera now either. So that's helped the podcast as well. Or I think all those, I also did when I was younger, a bunch of business accounting courses, and not that I have used those, but I feel like if I ever need to make a spreadsheet, I can make a spreadsheet. So I just think that if you're not doing something because you're scared, or you're scared of what people think, I think it's more embarrassing that you don't try it. And it's more embarrassing, like, for example, if somebody is making fun of you because you've decided you really want to be a content creator and you're making those get ready with me's, and maybe in the first month or two, they're coming up on people's For You pages and they're making fun of you, right? But then just imagine if in a year's time, your video takes off and your dream of, being a beauty influencer, getting invited to fashion shows becomes true. Are you still going to care that there was people making fun of you? No. They're probably going to sit there and start DMing you, wanting to be your friend and being like, wow, you're killing it, when they were like your secret haters when you were coming up. So I feel like you can't be embarrassed of what other people think. And a question you should ask yourself, if no one was looking at what you were doing, would you, and no one and money wasn't a problem, what would you do with your life? That's a really good question that you should ask yourself, because then I think you'll be able to pinpoint what idea or what thing you really want to go down. And then also, if you're in the phase of just, researching lots of different ideas, I do think that procrastination isn't just doing nothing. It's literally when you're doing that, when you're researching lots of different ideas, but not actually doing them, because then you're just basically wasting your time. So a piece of advice from me would be okay, maybe you can do a little bit of research into each thing, but once you have a solid idea and a recurring idea of something that you would love and it aligns with what you like doing and what you're interested in, then I think you can do the deep dive into research, but actually go ahead and make the plan and go further than just researching it, and don't let those doubts and insecurities creep up and stop you doing it. Just go ahead and do it. And the worst thing that can happen is, you waste a bit of money, or you waste a bit of time, or, people make fun of you for a little bit and then it's over, and people don't really remember all that sort of stuff. Another thing that I've learned, as I've got older, is people don't tend to hold on to things as much as you think that they're going to. A little tip that I actually did that I forgot that I did years ago was when I was trying to figure out what things I wanted to go into, and it might not be relevant because I changed it so many times, but when I was trying to figure it out, when I was, I think maybe 20 or 21 even, I basically wrote down all the things that I like doing and things that I'm interested in. And they would be I like design, or I know that I always look on Pinterest and I'm always looking with design. I'm always looking at houses and how people are doing their interior design and that sort of stuff. I used to really love looking at that. And I know that I loved when I was younger looking around properties with my dad, and we would always be examining how they were doing different things in the rooms from a design element. And then I also know that when I love fashion. So but then what I liked with fashion was also the design element. When I was younger, I would always be making trousers and putting embellishing them with things, or having a jacket and putting loads of brooches and earrings on it so that it would have embellishments on it, or that sort of stuff. So I know for myself that a massive pillar that I'm interested in is design. Okay. And then also what I think that I like is property, because I like looking around houses, and I know from a very young age, I've wanted to have houses or do something with that. And then also another thing that's been around in my life for a long time is media. So when I was younger, I'd jot down these things that I liked doing or was interested in, and then you can kind of make maybe 2 paths that you like, or 3 paths I think I had at the time of industries that I think I would like to go into. And I wasn't very specific on what exact job role, but more just the industries I wanted to go into. And then, I think that helps you kind of map it out a bit more, because I do get when you're 20 or 18 and you get thrown into the world, and if you don't have pressurizing parents like myself, it is quite overwhelming in picking one thing and sticking with it. And I don't actually think you should just stick with it. I think you should try a bunch of different things, because as I said a bit earlier, it's you do learn something from everything, and also it does make life quite fun. I know I've been the whole time a bit overwhelmed and stressed out, and I feel I'm behind sometimes, and maybe I don't know, or I second guess myself, but I feel I still have had so many nice experiences and tried so many things, and kind of do know way more now what I actually like. Whereas I think if I just stuck in one job, I think I would hit a point where I probably would be what else is out there? And although routine is great, and I love routine, I also do like the flexibility right now in my current state of being able to pick my hours and being able to travel if I want to and still work, but I'm able to control my life a lot more. And not everybody suits that, but if you're like me, then trying a bunch of different things kind of works in the best way for you. So if you are 26, 27, 28, I think you don't have to have everything sorted out. Like you often see on social media, like people pranging out about not knowing or thinking their life would be so different at this age. Like everybody is on such a different path and everybody is having different experiences and different timelines. And just because your best friend is, getting married and having a kid this year, or you know what I mean? Just because they're doing that doesn't mean that you need to be doing that. And it doesn't mean you're behind or that you should be doing that. So if you're having these thoughts, just write down in a journal, write down on a piece of paper, legit, what you like doing, what you enjoy doing. And then once you sort that, you could even put maybe your dream world, in another document, like your dream outcome of life from looking at those, what you do want. I think what you need to do is stop asking yourself, what am I going to do with my life? Or what do I want to do with my life? Just ask yourself, make it super simple. Just ask yourself, what do I want to do next? Something that stood out to me that I've just remembered from when I was younger that kind of goes with this topic is I remember I would always want to do everything after school. So I was like a weekly boarder and my mum would pick me up every single day after school to take me to dance practice. And I remember being in the car one time and she was like, Yaz, you can't do everything. And I don't know if this is just from me, like ever since I've been little, like I wanted to do everything and anything. Like I didn't want to just pick one style of dance or two styles of dance. Like I wanted to do jazz, hip hop, contemporary, street dance, and tap dance. And my mum was like, Yaz, you don't have enough time in the week to be doing this with school and with like being in other sports teams and stuff. So I do think, although I think you should have lots of ideas and it's good to try things and change things and I do think to be really good at something, you can't do everything. So like try to limit a little bit. So maybe instead of having 5 ideas, you only have 2 ideas that you work on simultaneously. Because I do think it's nice to have different ideas, but not all of them at once. So maybe you say, for the next 6 months, I want to focus in on just doing this, or just doing the podcast and also designing a few sketches for my clothing brand, but I'm not actually going to speak to manufacturers or anything yet. I'm just going to, on my weekends or on my spare time, if I get anything, I'm going to look on Pinterest and find some dresses that I like, So I think if you can't stop having all your ideas and just focus in on one, I think you should do it that way. So like maybe pick 2 and then do one like your job and then one like a little hobby. I think that's a good way to think about it if you're getting overwhelmed with having too many options. So how do we figure this out? And if you have any tips or you can give me any advice, please write in to the Breakup Diet Pod on Instagram and TikTok, or you can send me an email at thebreakupdietpodcast@gmail.com, because I want to hear your thoughts on this topic and I want to know if I'm the only one that doesn't know if they're doing the right thing, if they should do something else, or if it's just part of the process and you got to long it out and just see. I do want to leave you guys with your 20s are for trying things, seeing what you like, seeing what you hate, seeing what you are more curious about, because then maybe what you thought you wanted isn't actually what you wanted. Your 20s of figuring out your career path and all this, I also think it's like it's like the figuring out stage. And then come your 30s, hopefully you know a bit more of what you like, what you want to do, where you want to be. And that's like when you can actually make the foundations and the strong like pillars in your life. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but that is what I'm going to go with, and I'll be there with you along the ride. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you love this episode.
Buckle up, bitches. It's gonna get bumpy. This is the Breakup Diet.